of feels like the North Pole out there right now. And I say just wait, because next week it's going to be 70 and sunny, right? I want to thank GCC President Dr. Michelle Schuh for hosting us today, as well as Geraldine and the crew making us breakfast back there. So thank you very much. Back. I would also like to thank and introduce our breakfast sponsor, Bryant, who is the president of Baystate Regional Hospitals, as well as Franklin County Chair Board Member. Thank you, Ron. At this time, the podium is yours.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You had to wake me up there. I I want to thank, everybody in the room and the community for all the support that they did at Baystate Franklin Medical Center last year. We've seen pretty much unprecedented growth in the last year and continuing in the first 3 months of our fiscal year. And our patient experience scores have been as high as they've ever been. Our engagement scores for our employees have been as high as they've ever been. The RN scores, our engagement scores, each year we go through a process where we get really, it's kind of like a report card from our employees of how they're doing. We ask them a series of questions. And, the nurses at Baystate Franklin Medical Center had the highest engagement scores in the Baystate Health System, which is incredible. And, I actually mentioned that at a board meeting a few weeks ago, and I said, I showed up a graph, and they say Franklin Medical Center was the highest, and I thought, oops, because BMC was down here, right? They say Medical Center, and they're all looking at me, and I was like, well, that's too bad, right? And I really need to thank this table right here with Deb Provost, our Chief Nursing Officer is here, and Jenny Lanu and Melissa Burnett, and they're the folks that run Baystate Franklin Medical Center. Sometimes I get the credit, I like it, but they really deserve all the credit because they're the ones that are doing the work every single day. And they are a tremendous from a volume perspective, if you look at it, orthopedics is coming back strong. Took us a few years to get it off the ground, but we're rebuilding that program. It kind of went by the wayside a few years ago, which was very difficult for us as a hospital and also difficult for the community. But we spent a lot of time rebuilding that. Our women's health program is doing better than ever. Our birthing center is going strong. Which, we are the only regional hospital with Baystate Health that has a birthing center. We're also the only regional hospital with Baystate Health that has an ICU. So I do everything I possibly can to make sure that those services stay here in this community and that they grow. We have a digital advertising program that we just launched for the birthing center, which will be taken off. And we are seeing some growth in that area. So we want that to continue to be strong. Let's see, what else do I have? I think I have to mention the family residency program. Dr. Valdor is here with us, who's the chair of the family residency program. We're going into our third year right now, and we're going to have match day, right? March 17th, where we get allocated, I guess, our 4 cohorts for our third year, so we'll have a full program. And recently, one of our residents has decided to stay within the community and be a primary care physician, family medicine physician in the community, which is the goal of the program. So hopefully we have some high hopes that a few of the other folks will stay with us and be family medicine physicians in our community. That is a tremendous program that was instituted, 3 years ago, and we dreamed it up about 4 or 5 years ago. And when we did it, I just couldn't believe it. And you don't know how how lucky we are to have that program. It's the only residency program for Baystate Health that's not located in Springfield. So it's a tremendous asset. And what it actually did was turn your little hospital, Baystate Franklin Medical Center, into a teaching hospital. So we actually have a teaching hospital right here in Greenfield, which is great. And then I'll just talk a little on the behavioral health side. You know, this integrated behavioral health, Dr. Baldo just received a grant that's going to help us integrate behavioral health with the family residency program. We have some other funding that's available to integrate our family residents and also our PERT students, which are our medical students, into the community to work on substance use disorder and get them familiar with the different agencies in the community. And we're also working on our community health workers, which we receive some funding for that, so that we can train community health workers and support the community from that angle. And then that also fits in with what we're doing with the state. There's a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work that we have to do with the state, and some band-aids that have come down, and one of them is a performance improvement on the behavioral health side, where a patient that comes into the emergency department will see a physician within 7 days after discharge, and that'll fit nicely in with our family residency program, behavioral health integration that we're doing there. So, with that, I just also want to mention the Healing Communities Grant, which Deb Provost, our CNO, was instrumental in getting off the ground. Thank you, because I wouldn't have been able to do it. And it was great. So, we are the only hospital, regional hospital, that has 24/7 addiction consult services for our inpatients. And so that's worked out great. We're very proud of that. The grant actually ran out, and I made a decision to fund it. So we're going to fund that at least for another year or so, because it's so valuable for our patients and our physicians to provide the services that they need to provide. And then we'll work on case managers in our emergency department and peer recovery coaches in our emergency department to make that service even stronger. And we've also added palliative care services, which is another opportunity for us to strengthen the service that we provide to our patients in times of need, when they're going through some difficult transitions or health issues that they need additional support for. So we're very, very proud of that. We'd like to expand that to other areas of the system, but it's kind of resource driven. So we'll work on that in the future, but for now we have it. We're lucky about that. Our birthing center, just as I mentioned earlier, was designated by CMS, right? So the Medicare, Medicaid services is a birthing friendly designation. And this is given to centers that have a collaboration on quality improvement and evidence-based care. So that's going in the right direction. And it's just an example of the strength that they have. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention the workplace of choice and all the work that we're doing with Greenfield Community College right now, with a surgical tech program, with MAs, with health unit clerks, with patient care techs. So we're in the process of developing those programs, among others, so that we can provide jobs and train folks for the future of healthcare. And with that, I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ronald. It cannot be understated how rare it is, especially in rural communities, to have such a strong local hospital like Baystate Franklin Medical Center. So can we give the team just one more hand? Especially in the last couple of years, obviously, we know that the health of the individuals in our community affects the health of our community as a whole. And so it is really important that as community members, we do everything in our power to support the success of Baystate Franklin Medical Center. So thank you, Ron. Thank you to the Baystate team for your support today. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first Chamber Breakfast of 2024. I don't want to say that we're going to peak our Chamber Breakfast programming 19 days into the new year, but I think today's panel discussion will be tough to beat, so thanks for being here. We're thrilled to have you here. And an extra special thank you to everyone who is a new member and attending their first Chamber Breakfast. So please stand or wave when I call your name. Welcome to Brittany Weiss, who's joining us from Stony Burnham School. Welcome, Brittany. enough to say that. Fun fact, I was the mascot for 2 years. Emma Hushkin is here with us from O'Connell Care at Home. Welcome, Emma. Amy Bagos and John Martin are joining us from Applied Mortgage. Welcome. Welcome to Jack Trozen of Franklin County's YMCA. Brett Wiedenbach is joining us from Freedom Credit Union. Welcome, Brett. Gallagher Hannon and David Erickson are here from Boxco Studio of Greenfield. Welcome, Gallagher. David. And welcome to Lindsay and Josh Lively of Lively Builders. The featured Meet the Member of the Month. So if you go on our website, you can learn more about Josh and how he got started. And it's probably one of my favorite interviews we've done to this point, so be sure to check that out. And then finally, welcome to Chris Thompson of Big Brothers Big Sisters. Welcome to Western Mass. Welcome to all. We're so glad to have you with us. And since we do, I have a couple of quick announcements. So first, Business West is currently accepting nominations for this year's 40 under 40 class. Unsurprisingly, Franklin County has had a steady streak of young professionals who have been honored with this award over the past few years, and I would personally love to see that streak continue. I have nominated a few very, very deserving young professionals, and I hope you will join me in nominating a few young professionals that you admire. So those nominations are due by February 16th at 5 p.m. And I did serve as a judge last year, and I can tell you that the scoring and judging system is a little wonky, but if you want any tips and tricks of, any hot tips on what I think kind of stands out, let me know. Next, we will be holding a ribbon cutting on January 24th to celebrate the wonderful new space of Common Ground Fitness Center at 369 Federal Street. Yay, Nadya will be there. We will be cutting the ribbon at 4:45, and then we invite you all to join us for a free group cardio and strength workout at 5 p.m. So it will be fun. As always, everyone is invited. We hope you will join us. And then on Sunday, January 24th, actually 28th, I think that's wrong. 28th, right? That's the Sunday. Greenfield Garden Cinema is celebrating the 85th anniversary of The Wizard of Oz with a cosplay contest. And what do you wear to a Wizard of Oz cosplay contest? A costume. A costume. You get it? Wizard of Oz costume? Isaac, you can use that if you want to. Yeah. The contest starts at noon, and there is a whole host of great prizes from many of our chamber members. I will be judging. I have no credentials to do so, but it should be fun, so please join us for that. And then I have one more announcement. It's actually a really exciting one. So for the first time ever, Circus Marcus is coming to Franklin County. Yeah, this is a big deal. Does everyone know what Circus Marcus is? Okay, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up. So North Star Self-Directed Learning for Teens in Sunderland will be hosting the 2024 Circus Marcus Big Top Tour at the Franklin County Fairgrounds for the first time on July 22nd and 23rd for 4 shows. Circus Marcus is like Cirque du Soleil, a professional level training circus of 10 to 18-year-olds entertaining crowds with aerials, clowning, acrobatics, stilt walking, unicycle, juggling under a classic big tent. People of all ages love Circus Marcus. So Circus Marcus was previously held in Northampton, and it's a fundraiser to help make North Star's life-changing educational programming available to all interested teens, regardless of their family's ability to pay. Do not miss out. That was all in caps. Bring your family, spread the word, and become a sponsor. Details are on the sheets provided on North Star's website. I think you also have a handout on your table, but that really is something to be, Marion has them at the back, that really is something to be excited about. So save the date, and be sure to check out the website to find out how you can help get the word out. What a great sponsorship opportunity. All right, so on with the show. So as you know, I have been in the chamber role now for about a year and a half, and during that time I have had hundreds and hundreds of conversations with our members, and I can probably count on less than 2 hands the number of times that I have asked someone how they're doing, and their response has been overwhelmingly positive. Now, that is not to say that we are a bunch of grumps here in Franklin County. It's just, I think, more indicative of the fact that it is really hard to be a business owner right now in this economic climate. It's also just hard living life. So I think typically, the response when I say, how are you doing, is people are like, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm so busy. I mean, we all know what that sounds like, right? Like, we all know what that feels like. I think that's just true for this time of year. So those responses were really the inspiration behind today's breakfast. So at the chamber, when we're hearing that, our response obviously is, how can we help? We are continually trying to strategize, to examine what our value offer is so that we can do everything in our power to help you gain visibility, expand your network, and save money and time. That is our mandate. And so this morning, we're hoping that we can create a space where we can all take a moment and have a more objective, critical look at our kind of day-to-day habits, and maybe think about how we can weed out some of what I call time suckers, right? So how can we think through our day a little differently and ultimately carve out more time for the things that really matter? Now, you'll notice that today's program is titled, How to Achieve More in 2024. It is not titled, How to Do More in 2024. And that is intentional. Our hope is that today's panel will leave you with some tips and tricks and life hacks and actionable takeaways, and how we can cut through the chaos and achieve more with less stress. So as some of you know, I don't love a whole lot of white space on my calendar, right? So for that reason, I am continually looking to see how I can optimize my day-to-day for maximum performance. And if you were to look at my camera roll on my phone right now, you would obviously see some pictures of my children. You would see about 27,000 pictures of my dog Potato. And then you would also see hundreds of screenshots around AI hacks and how to do habit stacking and modules and integrations and Google calendars and motivational quotes and all of the good stuff. And don't worry, I'm not going to stand up here and read motivational quotes to you, as fun as that sounds. I am thrilled to be joined by this panel of local high-performing executives who are here to share their talent and expertise and kind of just start the discussion around how we can continue to do more with less, and again, make time for the stuff that really matters. So my ask of you today is that while you're listening, you're really looking at your day-to-day, and you're being really honest with yourself about what part of your day is extremely busy, because again, we are so busy and I understand that. And also, what part of your day maybe could use a little zhuzhing and a little reorganizing. If you have attended breakfast before, you know that typically we do a speaker series. This is the first time that we're trying a true panel discussion, so thanks for joining us on this adventure. But I think given the topic, it really lends itself to more of a discussion format. And my hope is that at the end of the day, we might also open it up to you all, because I know you also have tips and tricks and life hacks that might be beneficial for the group. So, without further delay, let me introduce you to our panel. As you know, we have Ron Bryant from Baystate Health. Ron joined Baystate Health in 2015 as president of Baystate Noble Hospital. Before that, he was executive vice president and CEO for the Noble Hospital Health System. In 2022, he was promoted to president of Baystate Regional Hospitals, which includes our very own Baystate Franklin Medical Center. It also includes Baystate Noble Hospital and Baystate Wing Hospital. Ron brings a wealth of leadership experience and a passion for positive change within Western Massachusetts healthcare community. How many beds are you ultimately in charge of, Ron? It's in the thousands.
No, I wish it was in the thousands. So Baystate has about
1,000.
Combined. The community hospitals have about 150. Maybe 200 if we combine OB and a few other things.
Yeah, that's ultimately a lot of responsibility. So we're thrilled to have Ron here. Nadya Beaudoin is the co-owner of Common Ground Fitness Center in Greenfield. Nadya and co-owner Jamie have owned Common Ground since April of 2020, and what a time what a time to open a gym, Nadya. And as you heard in my announcements, they recently relocated to 369 Federal Street. Nadya is a certified personal trainer and Pilates instructor and a mom of 2. Lindsay, Barron, LaBonte is here. With over 18 years in industry experience, Lindsay has been ranked individually #1 loan originator. There's a whole list of territories, but it's pretty much in the world for like the last forever. Lindsay and her team at Applied Mortgage have served Franklin County for decades, and we are grateful to have them as longstanding Franklin County Chamber members. In addition to continuously finding ways to excel in her career, Lindsay also volunteers her time serving on leadership committees and boards with more than a dozen community organizations. And Lindsay also is mom to 2 of the cutest little girls you'll ever see. So Lindsay is, someone that I look to when I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm like, how are you doing this? Beth Pellettieri is the owner and founder of Beth Pellettieri Coaching. Beth has her master's in public health and is a certified Martha Beck Wayfinder life coach. She has an extensive background in nonprofit development and management. Beth specializes in helping heart-centered, creative entrepreneurs in Franklin and New Hampshire counties find light, peace, and meaningful change in their non-traditional businesses. And like me, Beth is a minivan driving mom of 3. So yay, Beth. All right, so without further ado, we're gonna get into the panel. So you all have mics there. I think the first question I'm gonna ask is just for the groups. We'll start with Lindsay and work down. But what daily habits or routines do you attribute to your success as a leader, both personally and professionally? We'll start out with a heavy hitter.
Sure. Do I need to? Are we on now? Here we are. Daily habits that I attribute to my success have greatly shifted in the last 3 years because, as Jessie said, I have 2 daughters. I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So there's been a massive shift in the way that I define what success looks like for me and how I show up and why I show up and where I show up in the world. A lot of which has to do with energy because I'm constantly exhausted. Despite how Jessie says, how do you do it all? I'm always tired. So the habits now are little things, like getting up in the morning when I say I'm going to so I can actually have time to brush my teeth before I have to go get my child, right? It's the little things. There's some saying where good habits snowball for the day. So that's been really an important, I know it sounds so basic, but no great insight here other than just like the little things really do matter.
And what time do you wake up, Lindsay? Because I think that's an important piece.
So I used to be a very early riser, like 5 a.m. all the time. I have to tell you, this is new. I somewhat have given up on this 5 a.m. ploy because of the kids, because inevitably somebody's sick, somebody's waking me up at 3 a.m. It's really hard. I've been sleeping until about 6 recently, and staying up a little bit later than I normally did. So that's a change too. I've been trying to learn that I think things come in seasons. So I had a season of waking up at 4:30 or 5 and like grinding out my day. And now my season is, I need a little bit more sleep, and that's okay too.
Thank you for this question, and thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation. When Jessie called me, she was like, the panel's called Achieve More, and I was like, so you know I'm gonna tell everyone to do less, right? And she was like, yes, we looked at your website, we understand. And I think so often when we're talking about achieving more and self-care, there's a story that it's perfect for someone and not us. And I just want to blow that story out of the water. It is not perfect for anyone. We all are just prioritizing different things at different times. I have 3 kids, I have a small business, I have a partner that works a full-time job and is also in law school. And I cannot grow my business from self-care or do self-care like in a eat, pray, love sort of like moving to Bali way. I also, when I talk about self-care, do not take 3-hour luxurious baths. Although that would be lovely, especially this time of year. When I think about self-care, which is really my answer to your question, I think about how I manage my energy during the day. And that means that I have to prioritize the things that are actually important to me. That means that I when I work with clients, they have unlimited support between sessions, and I check those twice a day, and I try to stick to that, because otherwise I'm doing it all day long. Or that means that when it's time to do social media stuff, if I'm feeling particularly vulnerable or tired, I take a pause, I wait for the right day for that to come around. So I think it's not so much about this idea of self-care in a magical pie-in-the-sky way, because all of us are busy. It's about noticing what you need and not ignoring that as part of the equation on what you're doing. And so that's how I like to do it.
So I am a single mom of 2, and I have a small business that I run, and my day looks different every day. And for me, what that will look like is looking at the week ahead and seeing what clients do I have scheduled. Every day can be very different, and my routine will start actually the night before, not the morning of. So everything gets ready, and when I say everything, I mean everything. Bags, water bottles, snacks, my bag, everything is just lined up ready to go. I'm not a morning person. I will never be a morning person. I never have been. I'm not going to pretend to be a morning person. I like my sleep, and that is okay, and I have embraced that about myself. So that means I'm going to sleep as long as I possibly can without feeling totally rushed, and still enjoying my coffee and my breakfast or whatever I have planned for that morning, but everything is just lined up for that day. And prioritizing for me, my fitness is a big priority for me because that's what helps me with my energy, my confidence, how I feel throughout the day. And so that definitely gets scheduled right into my plan for the day. It's not every single day because there are those times for rest and recovery. That's where another piece of my self-care comes in. But the daily habits, they snowball over time. When you make it a priority, when you get it scheduled in, right into your regular day, and that really starts with knowing what my day looks like for the next day, planning ahead, and it starts the night before.
Well, I'm glad you're not a morning person, because I ain't either. But I had to get up at 5:30 this morning to come here with a dark out. I was like, this is crazy. But I've been doing the same thing forever. And, as I've gotten, so as my career, so I've been doing this a long time. I've been running hospitals now for almost 30 years, and before that I was in finance. And in particular, when I got into leadership, I worked a lot on the things that happened during the day. And what I mean by that is every day I would go home and I would write down the situations, how I could handle them better. Or if I handled them okay, why did I handle them all right? And I still do that. I don't write them down every day anymore. I kind of think about them, and I think a lot. Sometimes folks will say that I don't even get back to them. But then like a week later I'll say, you said something to me, and then I will respond to them. So I really contemplate a lot on what people say to me and what their response should be. Because I believe a lot that folks should be doing their jobs themselves. If you surround yourself with people that are better than you in what they do, and smarter than you, and want you to be successful, the organization itself will be successful. So I spend a lot of time thinking about that every day. And so how can they be successful? And I let them do their work that they need to do. And I really, I have a couple of sayings. And one of them is, I try not to get involved in what the hospital is doing, because if I get involved, I'll muck it up. And if you look at the regional hospitals, they've all been very successful in the last couple of years. And the reason is because they have very strong teams with folks that are strong in what they do. And you just let them run. And I think a lot about that. Now, there's times that you might have to give guidance or advice in certain areas because there might be some political ramifications or business ramifications that they just are not aware of as of yet. But other than that, it's the people that you surround yourself, and I spend a lot of time thinking about that.
So I think what we're hearing is that it's okay to sleep in, right? And sleep in, obviously relatively 6 a.m. is hardly a sleep in. But I think that's interesting. I personally wake up at 3:50 every morning, and so maybe I will try not doing that and just see how that goes. So I think I'm going to ask this next question for Lindsay. So Applied Mortgage consistently provides 5-star client support and service. So how important is a customer-centric approach, and how can we all borrow from your success and enhance our own customer service?
Yeah, so getting a mortgage can be very transactional, right? You might own 1 to 3 houses in your lifetime, okay? So the opportunity that we get as loan officers to work with a customer is very fleeting, and we want to transcend that transaction. We want to really stick with the person and be a financial partner for life. And it's not just about their mortgage, it's about the way that that particular house fits into the rest of their life goals. And frankly, we do that, we try to achieve a good review from everybody by really making them feel connected. So it's not just the mortgage, it's how can we connect them to folks like you all in the community. Homeowners are people. They need a business coach, they need an accountant, they need to do their banking somewhere, they need a hospital, right? So any opportunity that we get, I and my team try to make that extra connection. And it's the little things. I find myself, because I'm so focused on customer service in my day-to-day business, I find myself looking for that in my own interactions in the community too. And there's so many opportunities to just send a little handwritten thank you note. Ask someone genuinely how they're doing. Remember that they told you that their kid had a soccer game and ask how the soccer game went last night, right? So it's like technology, you mentioned AI and all this technology and all that. It's very useful. There's a place for it, certainly, in creating efficiencies and making the customer experience better. But you also have to maintain that authentic, real person-to-person. Even if it's through automated technology, still make sure that it's an authentic touch and that you're really grasping people so that, you want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, they put a little chocolate on your pillow and they fold your towel in a certain way, right? So how can you do that within your own business? I ask myself every day, how can we do mortgages, but make it fun, make it cool? What's cool about a mortgage? You gotta pay a debt for 30 years, right? But what can we do every day to try to improve that?
That's great. I love the idea of being excited about paying a debt for 30 years. I love that.
It's so fun.
The framing of it is great. So Beth, the next question is for you. What are some of the common traits that you see in your most successful clients?
That's a good question. I think that often when we have suffering, think of not worse suffering, like a mild level of suffering that you can sort of be curious to, we then try to argue with the suffering, right? And when we argue with something that is just true, we lose our access for creativity and possibility. So if you take your hand and make a fist, anyone want to do this with me? I'm going to do this actually with the microphone. And then, so you try to make a fist. Imagine this is something you're struggling with, something small, maybe at work. And then you try to pull the fist open with your other hand. What happens? Resistance, right? You actually are creating more resistance. So if you take the same fist, keep it just as tight, put your other hand under it, it immediately loosens, it softens. And so this is how we want to approach the stuff that we're struggling with. Thank you, Lindsay, appreciate the teamwork. Is with curiosity and with compassion. We cannot change our behaviors if we're arguing with ourselves, if we're assuming that we're doing it wrong. There's this beautiful book that I love called Immunity to Change, and it really talks about why the stuff that we struggle to change in our lives is not personal. Because so often the part of us that is struggling to change serves a really important function in the rest of our lives. So I work with heart-centered people. Our sensitive folks are people that really care about other people. And that means when they're trying to grow their business or step into the light of this is me and this is what I do, there is a normal tension because really what they want to do is take care of everybody else. That tension isn't because they're doing it wrong. That tension is because they're trying to shift a core part of who they are in order to step into a new role. And so that means that rather than meeting that tension with resistance, with argument, with self-judgment, with self-criticism, the more interesting way to do that is with self-compassion. Oh wow, this is actually just really hard for me. Anyone else in my shoes, it would be just as hard. And from there, from that softness, from that grace, it is so much easier to create change. It is so much easier to think of curious, creative possibilities or change in a way that you hadn't thought of before, not because you're being mean to yourself, but because you're just loving yourself harder. And one of my favorite tools for parenting clients with kids or people that they love, which is almost everyone, is what would you say to someone else in the same situation? And almost immediately people can find compassion, right? We are 100 million% kinder usually to other people than we are to ourselves. And so you would never say to your kid or to your best friend who is trying to grow their business, "You're so stupid, why can't you figure this out?" But without missing a beat, that is what we'll say to ourselves. And so when you have to write this out, I'm a big journaler, not everyone is a big journaling person, but take the thoughts that are in your brain around your suffering, write them out, see how mean they are, and then write yourself a little bit of a letter that's softer and kinder like you would to a friend or to a child. And from there, from that place, it is so much easier to create change. So I guess the long answer to your question is what works best for my clients is when they meet their suffering with compassion and with curiosity, because that's how we change.
How many of us here journal? Okay. How many meditate? Okay. I'm just always interested because it feels like those two topics come up a lot in terms of folks who have their days really dialed in, is the importance of taking that time in the morning to kind of like set your goals and affirmations for the day. So I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, and I think since most people did not raise their hand, which is great, I think there's so many ways now with apps and stuff to do this differently, right? You could leave yourself a voice memo, you could write it in notes real quick, like you just take the thought that is stuck in your head, which means it's probably not true to begin with, write it out. The truth always feels kind in our nervous system, so if it's a lie, it's gonna feel icky. And usually our thoughts are telling us lies, which is just the nature of our brain. So write it out, see it for what it is, and see if you can play with it.
You're all getting journals at the next breakfast, is what I think we just heard. So Nadya, many of us are looking to dial in our health and fitness habits this year, but maintaining a positive mindset and staying motivated can be a challenge. Lindsay was talking about seasons, and I think we've all experienced that's particularly true for health and fitness. So what are some ways that we can cultivate a mindset for success and stay consistent in our health and fitness journey even after the motivation has left us? And I ask you that now, January 19th.
Well, and I've noticed it's almost a little bit like it was back in January of 2021. Everybody was getting COVID, and this year so many people have been sick and just have gotten behind the ball of starting things. And really, the reality is there's no best time to start. How many here have used the excuse, I'm too busy to start a workout program? I've used it myself, and I think what I always tell people, start when you're at your busiest, actually. Because if you can start when you're at your busiest and establish a routine, no matter how short the routine is, no matter how little time you may have to spend on it, if you can establish something when you're at your busiest, when you're not so busy, you'll actually have more time. And then when you get busy again, and that all comes from those seasons of change. And every season could be a little bit different. I'm right now in my busiest season. It is January, it is New Year's resolutions, new year, new you. And this is a time where I don't falter with my workouts. They may look a little bit differently with my fitness and my health, but because I have the routine already established, it may need to be tweaked a little bit, it may need to change a little bit, but it's already there. So the most important thing to do is to first, don't try to come in guns blazing. I think we all try to do that every new year, and we try to do too much too soon. It's way too overwhelming. And this is the mistake that I see new exercisers make, or people who get into the New Year's resolution every single year and then start to fade off because you're overwhelmed, you're doing way too much, And it's exhausting, it can be exhausting. It shouldn't be exhausting. It should be something that you feel good about. It should give you energy. It should make you feel like you can say, instead of, oh, I have to work out, well, I get to work out and it's fun for me and it makes me feel good. And so setting just one simple goal for yourself and be very specific about it, and don't try to take on too much too soon, and then make an actual plan. And a lot of times it's helpful if you have a coach who can help you set those goals and come up with a plan, and start really small and simple. Get that particular habit established, and then when you feel ready and you have a little more time, add on another habit. So you're constantly stacking these habits and they just become part of you. And sometimes those habits will change depending on what your goals are and the season of life that you're in, and that's okay. Reassessing where you're at and making those changes throughout, but really it's all about that consistency. If you can stay consistent, and really motivation has nothing to do with it. We are not ever motivated. I don't get up in the morning and say, yeah, I'm gonna work out today. Like, I mean, some days maybe, but other days it's like, oh boy, okay, here we go. But I know that what gives me that motivation is, number one, taking action. If you don't take action, you're not gonna see any results. When you take action, little bit by little bit, you start to get those results. You get those results, that's where you're getting that motivation from. It's from taking action, getting results, you feel that motivation. So you take more action, you get more results, and then you get even more motivation, and the cycle just continues from there. So you're not gonna ever have some magic awakening of, yes, I'm ready to work out and I'm gonna do this. It really starts by just taking that one small little step and taking that action, and let it snowball from there.
I think that's really important. So starting small, and I think this is something we've all read for anybody who, kind of researches folks who are successful in achieving their goals, is starting small. And then I'm also hearing that motivation is cultivated, which I think is important for us to all hear, that there are not those people in the world that exist that are like, oh, I'm gonna work out today and it's gonna be great. That's not an everyday mantra for everyone. So I think that's helpful. And thank you for bringing up that people are sick. So you may notice that Casey Kusransky, who is the CEO of Common Nita, is not with us today. She is sick. She sends her regrets. I'm hopeful that we'll have an opportunity to put her on a panel in the next couple of months, because she is amazing. So Ron, as a leader, how do you foster a culture of collaboration and teamwork within Baystate Regional Hospitals, particularly during times of crisis? Do you know anything about that, Ron? Have you ever led hospitals during a pandemic or anything?
No, I don't know anything.
No.
Yeah. So, culture is it's a funny word, right? It's like, what is it? And Baystate has gone through a transition, I would say, over the last 6 or 7 years of designing our culture and the type of culture that we desire that makes it attractive for folks to come work there. So we took actually most of the organization now has gone through, from the managers up, a certain leadership training program. And it's how really we interact with each other and how we treat each other. And really it's with respect, it's with trust. And we have this Baystate platform that we utilize, and it has different categories in it. But one of the categories is the values that we desire ourselves as leaders, which one of them is trust, and the values that we desire of our employees. And it's been successful. As we look around the organization and how we interact, it's probably better than it's ever been. It's a very collaborative environment. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I myself can't pick up the phone and say, hey, I need some assistance or help with this, and you'll get all kinds of folks that want to help you. And then I think the other part, the ingredient that is different about what we do is the healthcare is a business of people, and we take care of folks that come in the door sick. Nobody wakes up and says they want to exercise. Nobody wakes up and says they want to go to the hospital. And they're there because they have a need. And the folks that take care of them, the providers, it's a calling for them. You don't go into healthcare for, you go into healthcare for different reasons, but the reasons are pretty much central to the fact that we want to help people. And if you look at healthcare, when there's a crisis, they rally. You know, you might have certain departments that don't always collaborate as much as you'd like, or not following a certain leadership programs and things like that. But when there's a crisis, like COVID is an example, right, the pandemic, look at how many folks in healthcare across the country, every one of them, rally to take care of the patients. And that's the central focus of healthcare. It's always about the patient. And in some ways, it makes our job easier, because when we have to make a decision, what's the first thing we think about? What's the best thing for the patient? It's not about what's the best thing for us, what's the best thing for the hospital, it's what's the best thing for the patient. And so we have a central focus that keeps us grounded. And then we work around that, and we build a culture of a servant leadership culture that aligns with that. And it takes a long time. Culture doesn't just exist, right? It kind of takes on a personality of its own. So what is it? I remember Dr. Kerouac about 10 years ago used to say that, you know, I wish I would get this culture and find it and get a stick and I would beat it, right? Because we didn't know what it was. And it's really something that you have to work on and desire. And you've got to get a lot of input from the employees, from your leaders. And we went through a long process of that. There was committees and how we're going to, what we aspire our organization to look like. And it doesn't go away. You don't stop. It doesn't like, hey, wow, we got this culture, it's fantastic. That's not how it works. It's something that an organization, especially the size of Baystate, I mean, we have, you know, with $3 billion in revenue, we've got 13,000 employees, we're the largest employer in Western Massachusetts. This cultural work has to go on, and I hope it does, forever. It just doesn't stop. And that comes from the top with the Board of Trustees, where they have to embrace it also, which they're going through. And if you keep at it, sooner or later, right, you start to see this change. And I think that's where Baystate is now, and that's how we foster that culture of working together in a collaboration and make it centered around the patient.
So I think what we just heard is that nurses and healthcare workers are heroes. So after you leave today's breakfast, please find a nurse or a healthcare worker or a nonprofit social service folk that you know and give them a high five, because they truly are difference makers for every part of our community. We are so lucky to live in an area that is so rich with talented healthcare staff. So thank you, Ron. All right, this next question is for everyone, and I'm actually going to blend two questions together, so get ready. How do you track personal and professional goals, and what advice would you give to those looking to achieve professional growth in 2024? So how do you track your own goals? And then two, what life hack technology or apps do you frequently use that give you a competitive edge or contribute to your personal and professional success? So I'm hoping that those two things may be related. So, Lindsay, do you want to start?
Sure. All right, so tracking goals. So I'm in a sales business, right? Mortgages, we just talked about, are transactional. Sometimes people don't like to say they're in sales, but I actually believe that we're all in sales. Whether you run a nonprofit, or you run a mortgage company, or you have a hair salon, whatever it is, a hospital, you're getting customers in the door, and you want to retain those customers and make them happy. So for me, a lot of the goals are around, like we talked about with my wanting to have a good customer experience, right? How can I track those metrics to make sure that customers are having a good experience? Well, we ask them for surveys, we ask them for feedback. So that's one method of tracking. Feedback to me is so important, whether it's from your customers or also it's from your team. We're talking on this panel about achieving more in 2024. I think actually this blends into the technology hack. How can you actually do less to achieve more? And so a form of tracking and technology that I use is pretty basic, a calendar. And there are scheduling tools and scheduling apps that you can use that make things really efficient and can help you with your individual, use of your time. It can also help you track your team's time. And I think this can also go to, you don't have to be a business owner or the manager or anything specific like that. You may manage your own household, right? You may manage your group of friends, okay? You can look at anything as far as a business and tracking goals and analyzing what's going on. And how can you use what you're tracking to make more space in your life to feel good is a huge metric for me that I've been looking at. Does this make me feel good? Is it helping me meet my core values? And if not, again, tracking what's going on can help you remove from your life what's actually kind of weighing you down. So technology, what I'll say is there's something called Calendly. It's a scheduling app for your calendar. If you don't have a scheduling app, I would highly recommend that. It's awesome. Roll it out to your whole company. It's like free to use too. There's a lot of versions, but that's huge for me. And as far as the tracking, again, for me, it's success looks different at different times. So it's not always the number of customers or the amount of sales you're doing or whatever. It's the experience of those customers, the experience of your staff, how you yourself are experiencing things. A coach I had, I'll just leave this last piece, said, how can you say no to the good to make room for the great? And that sat with me kind of funny because I'm the kind of person that's like a hand raiser. I want to do all the good all the time and all the things. And when I've actually tried to do that in my goal setting and tracking and in the way I'm, again, creating space in my life, saying no to certain things is great because it makes room for the great, right? It lets you have more space and time to do more things and achieve more by doing less, I think is what Beth said earlier.
So I'm really glad she didn't say no to this, right? And if you've talked to me at any point in the last 2 weeks, you know that I just started using Calendly. I'm really glad Lindsay brought that up. I knew that she used it. It's an app that integrates with your Google Calendar and it kind of sets parameters. So I noticed that a lot of my time was being sucked up by trying to email back and forth to find appropriate meeting dates. And this, you can just send a link and then people can schedule themselves in, obviously based on the parameters you set up. But I am not sponsored by Calendly, but you wouldn't know that if you've talked to me in the last 2 weeks because it is amazing.
All right, so I think I'm gonna piggyback on something you said, which is it's about the experience. So when you came this morning, how did you want to feel? Did you want to feel connected? Maybe you wanted to feel nourished. You were only in it for the breakfast. Maybe you wanted to feel celebrated. Our front table from Baystate over here. There was a feeling state that you were hoping to achieve by coming. Maybe you wanted to feel more secure in your job or safe. And often we are solving for feeling states implicitly instead of explicitly. So when clients say, I want to pay myself more, or I want to have more clients, or I want to grow my business, or I want to clean up my relationship with money, I always say, why? What's the reason? What's the feeling that you're trying to cultivate in your life? And sometimes it's happy, but most of the time it's peaceful and easy. I want things to feel peaceful. I want them to feel easier. And when we're solving for a feeling state, it is easier to achieve our goals. If I want to get strong, if I want to feel strong in my body, there are so many different possibilities for how I can do that successfully. I could take a cardio class, I could go for a run, I could do some yoga or some stretching one day because that's just going to feel better in my body or I have less time. There are so many more ways to be successful when we're solving for the thing we actually want, which is a different feeling than the feeling that we're having. And so when I work with clients, we set two kinds of goals. We set our external goals, which is like, I want this many followers, or I want to grow my business this much, or whatever. I want to show up and I want to send out a monthly blog or whatever. And then we set feeling goals, which is how do you want to feel? And the feeling goals are really the railroad tracks. Like that's actually the thing we're solving for. So if you start sending out blogs and you realize you hate it, let's figure out a different way to achieve the feeling goal and the result in a way that feels peaceful to you. And so for me, the feeling goals come first, because they're actually more interesting, and they're the thing I'm actually trying to create more of in my life. So I would actually encourage everyone, because I'm a coach, I'm gonna make you do something, to write down how you want to feel. Maybe this year, like one word that you're trying to cultivate this year. Maybe it's how you want to feel in your job or in your business growth. So if you feel like it, take a moment, just write it down. It doesn't have to be profound. And with that, so my business hacks are that I am a strategic meditator. That means I don't really like sitting still, but I often use a meditation app to calm my nervous system when I'm doing hard things. So I will put on, there's a great app called Meditation RX. It's actually a meditation app that's specific for people in healthcare situations who are feeling stressed about a doctor visit. So it only has like 8 options. I usually put that on when I'm writing my blog posts because I get a little jittery. And I have some podcasts that I love when I'm trying to be a little more high vibe than I'm feeling. So I think having apps or energetic mentors when we're trying to be in new feeling states is a really helpful strategy for sticking to our goals and feeling it more holistically in our body.
So this year was a really big year for Common Ground. We were on the corner of High Street and Silver Street. We had less than 60 days to move out of our space because our landlord was selling the property. So it was a lot of stress. We found a beautiful space on Federal Street that we absolutely love, but we had to shut down for over 7 months, which was completely unexpected. So, and then in reopening our new space, which is just amazing, we reopened again on September 30th. There were a lot of things that we were well aware of. You know what your new rent is going to be, but you don't sometimes always know what some of those other expenses are going to be. So I've really had to make a shift and change in how I set goals. And it goes along with fitness goals as well. How I approach business goals now is looking at where I want to be. What is my big goal for this coming year? What's going to help us meet our expenses and then take us to the next level and be able to serve more people in a way that's going to work for them and what their lifestyle is, and really seeing, okay, what are some of the smaller steps that I need to do to get there? And it's not just being able to pay the bills or pay our team, but also visualizing what I want my business to look like. And part of that visualization was creating an amazing team. We're sitting at this table here, and we're missing a few people, but I'm super excited to have them on board, and I really wanted to start creating more of a sense of community within our team because our instructors come in different times. I'm not always there. I'm not always able to connect with them. One of the apps that I started using is called Slack. It's a free app. There's a paid version as well if you have multiple teams that need different things for our purposes. And I don't know if they'll agree with me or not, but it's been such a wonderful way for us to really be able to communicate with them. We can't always get together for team meetings. Everybody has a different schedule, so it's great. We can set up different threads, we can set up different private messages as well, so that not everybody's phone is blowing up over something that they don't need to, necessarily be involved with. If someone's trying to sub for somebody or share information about their specific class, if somebody is subbing for them, those types of things. But it's been a great way for us to bounce ideas off of each other and really grow and have that sense of community, and not just, okay, I'm coming in and teaching a class and then I'm leaving again. And it's been a great way for me to let go of some things too, because since the start of my business, I've been the one doing everything. I'm the janitor, I'm the bookkeeper, I'm the accountant, I'm training clients, I'm teaching classes, I'm doing all sorts of things, the marketing, and learning to let go and let someone else take over that project, trusting the process, trusting my decisions, trusting my team. It's been a game changer for me as someone who's just gonna do it all myself. And that's when I've started to get burnt out. It's been a scary place moving into a new space and having this big expansion, but really learning to trust myself and also trust my decisions and making that time for my own self-care too. Personally, I use a subscription service that has an app with it. It's called Silk and Sonder. I get this beautiful little paper calendar that has different journal prompts, and there's daily rituals on the app and affirmations. And I like to start my day that way because it really helps me get centered on how I want my day to look like, how I want to feel at the end of the day, how I want my week to be. And it really helps me stay focused, but also gives me that time to myself too, where I can tend to my own self-care. And that way my cup is filled so that I can have my cup completely filled and be present for when I'm training my clients, when I'm spending time with my kids and my family, whatever it is that I have, I know that my cup is already full so I can give, and I keep filling that cup every single time.
Great.
I think I'm feeling old-fashioned. I don't use any apps. I don't look at it. The only reason I look at my phone is to get my golf score or what's happening with the New England Patriots. But, and it's true. And, I'm in the people business. I'm in the relationship business. And when I'm in a particular hospital, like if I'm at Baystate Franklin Medical Center and I need to see somebody, I go talk to them. And if I need to talk to somebody and they're not in the building, I give them a phone call. So that's, my phone, I do text a lot. And it's with folks that I work with or that they're in the community. So I'm in a relationship business, and that's how I run my life. I run it like that with my family, and I run it like that in my professional life. So I'm not a high-tech person, and I look at my emails and I do a lot of deleting. And really, that's how I run it, and it's been like that for over 40 years. And then my goals, I do set goals, and they haven't changed much in all that time. I have professional goals and I have personal goals. They've gotten more personal over the last few years, but I say them every single morning, and now I know them by heart, and I say them. And actually, one of the goals was I set, I don't know how many years ago, and I got them on these little pieces of paper. They're all ripped up. And that goal is for 2024, actually. I probably written it 15 years ago. And they just stay with me. And they don't change. They're like 2 or 3 of them, and I wrote them out years ago, and it's how I'm going to be with my family and what we're going to be. And the first one is health. I tell you, I got like this fire, and every time I go through these self-exercises or self-evaluation exercises, the first thing that always comes up is health, and just my family's health and my own health, and I work on that, and then from there everything falls in place. But I don't change my goals much, they're just, I don't know, call it what you be, but they've been written down for years, and I keep to them, and it's how I interact with people, and it's how I view the world.
As long as that 2024 goal is not to retire on, that's just fine. So I have about 25 more questions, but we are short on time. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking instead of doing the group discussion and having people kind of just share some of their, best habits and apps, that you actually email me and we can combine a list and then share that out based on some of the discussion that we've heard from our panelists and then also from the group, and we can share that out to the larger network. Feel free to send, specific softwares that you use, make it as clear as possible. We'll try to link everything so that we can share what we've learned today with the wider network. But ultimately, if there is anything that the chamber can help you do to achieve your goals, we are here to do that. So please feel free to email us anytime, or you can meet with me because I have Calendly, so you can just pop yourself right in. But we really appreciate you being here. Did this feel helpful? Okay, great. Thank you very much to our panelists, especially for, we threw caution to the wind and decided to test drive this, and I think this program setup works for these kind of meatier discussions. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to Baystate Health. Thank you to our panelists.